Good afternoon and welcome to CVM Live, the noon edition on CVM Television, online at cvmtv.com, and remember, you can download our CVM TV Smart app from the Google Play Store and the App Store. Police continue to investigate the circumstances surrounding the death of a well-known businessman, John Brandon Murray. Murray, more famous for his involvement in local football, was gunned down on the grounds of the Mayfair Hotel on West Kings House Road in Kingston on Sunday. Reports are the 47-year-old landscape of Clarendon Park in the parish of Clarendon was walking on the compound of the hotel when he was pounced upon by an unknown assailant who fired several shots. Murray died on the spot. Attorney-at-Law John Jr. has awakened concerns about the behavior of the Firearm Licensing Authority, FLA, in a matter concerning the Manchester Rifle and Pistol Association. He says citizens are being treated with impunity and their characters tarnished with innuendos. Speaking at the Lay Magistrates Association of Jamaica, Manchester chapter recently, John Jr. says the full story must always be told in the interest of justice. He says the Manchester Rifle and Pistol Association was approved to participate in overseas competitions, but the FLA was concerned that 12,000 rounds were being purchased for a firearm holder who would be involved in the competition.
The then chairman, who is now the Commissioner of Police, Major General Anderson, competitive shooters, and this was a meeting held with the dealers, firearm dealers, competitive shooters were encouraged to apply for rounds needed to ensure proficiency in their sport.
Junior notes that the Manchester Rifle and Pistol Association had alerted the FLA that members would be applying for additional ammunition in January of this year. He says the request was made for 12,000.4 rounds for each member and not one individual.
The decision, rather, to apply for 12,000 rounds was informed by the fact that there were several other local and international tournaments following in short order, such as the Jamaica Invitational Pistol Tournament held in the first week of April, the Area 6 Championship in Okeechobee, Florida, held in the second weekend of April, and the Pan American Handgun Sporting Competition.
The community of Porus in Manchester was on the receiving end of the Justice Ministry's Legal Aid Council recently. We join Khadija Thomas, who tells us how.
Residents were out in their numbers to access the free legal advice from the Legal Aid Council's mobile unit. One resident, Odina Campbell, says persons will get assistance from the unit once they approach them for guidance.
I had a problem, and I'm glad for the service that I'm glad that there was somebody to assist me with my problem.
Attorney-at-Law Shara K. Dakers, who is a legal consultant for the Legal Aid Council, says they provide advice on criminal and civil-related matters, and once citizens require an attorney, it can be arranged.
So those attorneys are also attorneys in private bar who are on the panel for the Legal Aid Council, and they represent them in court free of cost.
Dakers says everyone must have access to justice, but many refrain from doing so due to financial constraints. She says the legal aid's decision to visit communities will reduce that drawback.
We have a lot of persons coming out today. They're very grateful for the legal assistance. We've been getting a lot of persons who have issues in land-related matters. Everybody that came today had land-related issues. Yes, so we have been dealing with a lot of those today, and they're just grateful, and we're happy to be here to assist.
The attorney adds that the unit intends to return as they have recognized a need to assist more residents. She says although a legal aid clinic is not in every parish, they visit communities which are under the Citizen Security and Justice Program, CSJP, every month. The CSJP is a violence prevention program established to enhance citizen security and justice in Jamaica. Khadija Thomas for CVM Live.
The Augustown Police continue to encourage motorists to desist from using a section of the roadway in Augustown which has been blocked off to vehicular traffic. Despite the posted warning and even prosecution, the drivers continue to take the risk.
There's no skirting around this huge gap in the roadway at University Road in Augusttown. It spells danger all around.
Well, from my information is that the University of the West Indies has a pipe that they put under the roadway. It was a plastic pipe, and the water that comes from the university would go through that pipe into the river. But what happened, they lit fire, causing damage to the plastic pipe that was there. And as a result of that, instead of the water going through the pipe, it is just running right across the road now. So it has removed the soil from under the roadway and caused it to cave in.
You said they lit fire?
Yes, I'm not sure who did it, but a fire was lit.
The road, as it indicates, is close to the Mona UWI campus. It has been closed officially by the NWA since April, we were told. But motorists who seem not to care about their safety continue to put their passengers at risk. The soft shoulder and the sidewalk, their easy path around it.
Persons from everywhere. I mean, men, people with their family, women with their family, they break the law every day around that roadway. That's just taxi operators.
Inspector, they're not taking you seriously at all.
You're not taking it seriously.
As recently as June 8 and 9, some 20 motorists were prosecuted, but that fine is like the dust the road users leave behind.
Well, the ticket that we are now issuing these motorists is ticket for failing to comply with other road signs.
At last check, Inspector Keith Steele from the Augusttown Police Station says Rehabilitation Road should be rolled out soon.
The Minister, the Member of Parliament, Ms. Favour Williams, at a meeting on Wednesday of this week, that's gone a while ago, she indicated that the design for the roadway is finished, and within 2 weeks from Wednesday, work would be started to rehabilitate the road there.
As the Health Ministry continues the campaign for less sugary drinks in schools, the Norman Manley High School has been equipped to encourage its pupils to top up regularly with H2O. It's something those who behind this timely gesture did not have during their time at the school. CVM's Khadija Thomas reports.
2 years ago, Norman Manley High was the recipient of 10 computers donated by its Alumni Association. Following that donation, the school's cadet unit received 28 boots, which contributed to the school for performing well during cadet inspection. Now, the Alumni Association has contributed again.
Certainly, it is something that we appreciate. I reached out to the alumni when we realized that, because one of the things that we have to look at is the fact that students who are healthy are students who can learn. And what we were looking at the time was that our students were not drinking enough water. And as such, we reached out to the alumni, asked them to donate some coolers so students could have access to the water. As
to every educational institution, assisting in areas where the school's administration falls short. This donation of water coolers is just in time to facilitate the Health Ministry's campaign for children to sip more water instead of sugary drinks.
As a matter of fact, what we did on Child's Day was to give all the students a water bottle. So we were actually ahead of the Ministry of Health as it relates to having our students being healthy, because certainly we're in a transformation state and we really want to get our students learning, and we understand that the researches would have shown that students who are healthy and by drinking water complements a healthy brain definitely learns better, and as such we want to have them drinking more water.
Orit Montague was speaking at the Norman Manley High Alumni Association School Luncheon. Khadija Thomas for CVM Live.
On the international scene, the U.S. says its discussions with North Korea are moving more quickly than expected ahead of the summit in Singapore on Tuesday. The White House confirms that President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un will hold a one-on-one meeting with only translators present. The BBC has the latest.
We are on the eve of potentially a historic summit. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, Kim Jong-un, the 33-year-old leader of North Korea, will sit down with Donald Trump, the American president, the first time that a North Korean leader has sat down with a sitting US president. So a very big day tomorrow for Kim Jong-un. Nonetheless, he is out and about tonight in Singapore. We're going to show you those pictures live in a second, but I'm just going to give you your bearings. So if you look at my backdrop here, they're walking around this hotel. This is the Marina Bay Sands Hotel. It's an iconic landmark on the Singapore skyline. It looks like a boat on 3 pillars. There's one just around the corner there, and you'll see the Fullerton Hotel just at its foot there. That used to be the old colonial post office in British times here in Singapore. It's now been transformed into a luxury 5-star hotel. And Kim Jong-un, as we see these pictures, you'll see that he's walking around with a huge entourage of security personnel, his bodyguards with him, and also, we think, in the company of the Singaporean foreign minister, who's been in Pyongyang in recent days, making the final preparations for this summit. And just to have a listen to the reaction as Kim Jong-un walks around. It is worth just bearing in mind as we look at these pictures that it's not so long ago, in fact 6 months ago, that this dictator of North Korea was threatening the obliteration of the United States. And it's also worth bearing in mind, I suppose, as we look at a leader of a state like North Korea that's been so isolated for so long, that back at home, of course, so many people are in gulags, political prisoners. They say around 1% of the Singapore population, and the population is around 25 million. So that tells you how many people are in prisons. And yet here he is in Singapore being feted as an international leader, smiling, grinning, and being cheered as well.
And still overseas, Spain's Prime Minister has said the country will take in a rescue ship stranded in the Mediterranean to help avoid a humanitarian disaster. Pedro Sánchez said he would give safe harbor to the Aquarius and the 629 people on board after Italy and Malta both refused to let the ship dock. The BBC's Richard Lister tells us more.
Marooned in the Mediterranean, these are some of the 629 rescued migrants denied entry to the closest European ports. Among them, more than 120 unaccompanied children.
Okay, life jackets, cut this now. Cut this now, toss me life jackets.
They were picked up in a series of dramatic rescues off the Libyan coast at the weekend. The conditions were difficult. At least 50 were said to be at immediate risk of drowning.
Get them off people! Get them off people!
After being transferred to the Aquarius, run by a humanitarian group, they were allowed to leave the rescue zone and head north. But they were stuck between 2 countries, both adamant they were not obliged to take them in.
We will oblige and work around the legal obligations that are expected of us. But for the moment, it is not the situation.
Italy's new government backs tougher immigration rules. The Interior Minister, Matteo Salvini, has closed all Italian ports to the Aquarius. He said today, Malta takes in nobody. France pushes people back at the border. Spain defends its frontier with weapons. From today, Italy will also start to say no to human trafficking, no to the business of illegal immigration. It's not the first time he's linked vessels like the Aquarius to the people smugglers bringing migrants from North Africa. A deal between Libya and Italy has seen a sharp drop in migrant numbers. But more than 13,000 have been registered in Italy so far this year. The problem hasn't gone away.
The bottom line is that there's a humanitarian imperative to rescue people and to bring them to the nearest port. And notwithstanding, there are lots of legal arguments about which is the right port to bring them to. But clearly people in distress need to be looked after. And recall, I think also that the smugglers aren't part of this. They don't care, and they will be sending more people even today.
The Aquarius has supplies for a few more days, but there are many vulnerable people on this overcrowded vessel, some suffering hypothermia and burns. At least 7 women who are pregnant. The Spanish government now says they can dock in Valencia, but this standoff between Malta and Italy may be a taste of things to come for the next migrants rescued in the southern Mediterranean. Richard Lister.
Thanks for staying with us. It's now time for sports. The 2018 Basic School Athletics Championship, which was launched at InSports, will offer prize money for the first time in the 18-year history of the event. The winning school will take home $50,000, second place 30 and third 20. In addition, all the participating schools will each get $5,000 for competing.
And it really warms my heart to see these little youngsters, how excited they are. And in fact, they know the name of our athletes. They know the name of our elite athletes. Many said they wanted to be like Shelley Ann Fraser. Some said they wanted to be like Usain Bolt and others. So from a very young age, they are focused on track and field. And so we feel that the funding that we provide for this competition is money well worth being spent.
It has been a fabulous journey. We started out in 2001 with just a handful of corporate area schools. Now it has evolved beyond the corporate area. There are now schools as far as Westmoreland who will be competing this year. That is a fantastic move. It shows that the product is really growing. It shows that the schools are really interested in it. And it shows that also the students are also benefit, because the report that I keep getting back from the teachers is that they continue to see marked improvement in the students' overall performance when they participate in competitive championships or events such as these.
St. George's Slayers won the national basketball title for a third time. This follows Sunday night's win over UE Running Rebels at the National Arena behind quarterly scores of 23-18, 18-12, 16-11 and 17-19. The Slayers ran by the first-time finalists 74-60 to take their best-of-3 series 2-1. Michael Rogers was the high man for the Slayers with a game high of 23 points and 10 rebounds, while Anthony White added 14 points to go with 12 boards. Point guard Javon Bailey top scored for the Rebels with 15 points and Kamani Friend 12. He is no longer with us, but what he did will remain with us for a very long time. Those were just some of the sentiments echoed by persons who attended the 2018 Captain Horace Burrell Memorial Lecture.
Larger-than-life person, larger-than-life personality. So somebody who has dominated the sporting arena for the better part of 2 decades, I would say. It's very hard not to feel that he's still a part of what we're doing.
Reid, who served as General Secretary and National Team General Manager for more than a decade before moving on to the CONCACAF headquarters, says Burrell did what most persons only dreamt about.
There are so many things that we take away from his legacy, and I think for many, many years to come, he's going to be celebrated in terms of what he was able to do to transform the psyche of the nation in terms of sports, and in this particular instance, football.
Reid, who is now in charge of the CONCACAF Caribbean office, dismissed the notion that Burrell was a dictator.
I disagree with any notion that would suggest that Captain was a dictator. I absolutely disagree with that. He was a very strong leader with a very strong personality. But by my own experiences on many different situations, and that we have had reason to discuss different issues, I've never felt that he was not listening on the other side. So I don't have that experience that some people may want to speak to.
The former General Secretary, who was among the large crowd for the second Captain Horace Lecture Series held at the Courtly Auditorium last Thursday, says what Burrell brought to football came at the right time.
What he brought to our football at the time was required, was needed. It needed that very strong hands around the wheel, so to speak, and I think he was just the right person, the right place at the right time.
The lecture was under the theme Jamaica in the World Cup Finals 2022, Pipe Dream or Attainable, and for State Minister in the Ministry of Sport, Alonda Terrelong, it's attainable with a new approach.
It will take something new. And one of the things that I participated recently was the regional seminar focused on sports psychology. And perhaps this is what is missing from our teams. I was very surprised to learn that our national teams do not have sports psychologists attached to the teams during pre-competition and also during competition stages. What we have seen in particular in track and field is that our counterparts in South Africa, in China, in Australia, they have adopted sports psychology as a means of providing players with the mental fortitude to get beyond certain personal difficulties and to get at the top of championships.
We go back to that story about the basic school champs, where the sports minister was also happy with the growth of the meet, which has moved from 60 schools last year to 85 so far this year, with almost 1,200 boys and 1,100 girls already entered for the three-day championship, which gets underway this Wednesday at the National Stadium.
Well, the national sports policy states sports for all. That policy was developed when I was the minister. We lost the elections shortly after, and the new administration continued the policy and, in fact, tabled the white paper. And so, when we speak of sports in Jamaica, it is for all age group and for abled persons and those with disabilities. It is a policy that embraces everybody, and it even goes to the elderly for recreational purposes and for healthy lifestyle. Sports is an important, physical activity is an important element of daily living.
Debutants Dumbe Holding surged to the top of the standings with a 4-star performance over Wadada in their Premier League encounter on Sunday at the Dumbe Holding complex. Orrit Richards, Dwayne Smith, Craig Gale and Kevin White were on target for the South Central champions in their 4-0 win. In the day's other game, Mount Pleasant Academy had to settle for a point in their home fixture against Barbican at Drax Hall. Keslan Hall gave Mount Pleasant the lead in minute 66. Aking Bailey replied for Barbican 7 minutes from full time. To the standings, Dumbe Holding with 7 points holds a 2-point lead over Barbican. Mount Pleasant Academy is in third on 4, while Wadada is without a point as the first round came to an end. The playoffs continue on Sunday with Dumbe Holding playing away to Mount Pleasant and Wadada traveling to Barbican. Gabriel